Morning, everyone. This is Kevin Chandler here at the department. Welcome to our December Assessment Accountability webinar. As always, just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone joining today is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can send them to us through the Q&A box shown here. Simply type in your question and click send. We have posted our presentation as a document, so you can download it and follow along. Our presentation is also being recorded and will be posted on our website along with the transcript of the presentation. Okay, let's get started. For those districts and charters that applied for and received Governor's Learning Loss funding, there are only a few more days to make sure that you have tested students that were supported by the funds. Testing must occur between December 1st and 10th, and the SDE will access the IRI and ISET data directly. To close out this process, and to make sure the Idaho SDE has all the information needed for the report to the legislature, there's a required JOT form for all districts and charters that received the Governor's Learning Loss funds. This required JOT form will collect information on the total number of students served in each type of program by fund type. This required JOT form will also allow you to document if a locally selected assessment was used, and a description of how your school used funding to address credit recovery. Rick Kennedy, our Chief Procurement Officer, sent an email on Tuesday with a link to the required JOT form. A link to the required JOT form is also included in the email, and it's also on the slide. Please complete the required JOT form on or before Monday, December 13th. And with those updates, I'll pause for questions.
We do have one question, Chandler. What percentage of kids do we have to have tested? We have a student in Mexico and another in quarantine.
That is an excellent question. Not all students need to be tested, only those students supported by the funds. Please test close to 100% of the students as you can.
Another question, never heard back regarding a question from last time. If we are using a new monitoring tool, STAR, starting this school year, is that an acceptable, locally accepted tool for learning loss?
The Idaho SDE strongly recommends that the ICA or the SICA is used for testing for the Governor's Learning Loss Funds. However, there is some flexibility to use a locally selected assessment. Make sure that that locally selected assessment accurately measures the metric for student progress.
That's it for questions so far.
Excellent. All right, so I'll turn it over to Ayaka with some accountability updates.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here today and hope you all are doing well. First of all, thank you everyone for participating in the rulemaking process. I was so happy to see you guys submitted comments to the board. I thought about going into the details here of what the board approved, but because the pending rules are not yet effective, I took them out of the slide. If you are interested in what was discussed at the November 29th State Board meeting, please follow the link posted on this slide. And thank you for participating in the grad rate appeals work. The final window closes this Friday. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Any questions?
Well, while we're waiting for questions for Ayaka, Chandler, there was another one for you. K-2 students just need the IRI. We do not need to report a math score for these students?
If the students were supported by the K-3 funds, correct, they use the progress monitoring for IRI.
That's it for questions for now.
Very good. Okay, I'll turn it over to Paul with some NAEP updates.
Good morning, Idaho. This is Paul Kleinert with the National Assessment. I submitted lists of students from your IC uploads to the National Center of Education Statistics. They have run their algorithm to select students, and the NAEP field staff is gearing up to reach out. Over the last few weeks, I gave small trainings to the NAEP field staff, and I included important Idaho contextual information so they had some meaningful information as they go into this process. The messages I left the field staff with were, Idaho Public Schools performs slightly higher than the national public school average on NAEP. I showed them gap analyses of specific student groups. I told them how important it is to me that they work with the special education staff to make sure students have the correct accommodations. And finally, I told them how important it is this year to be more patient than ever. This month, schools should receive initial contact from the field staff, and lists will be available on mynape.com. Okay, I'm going to take a minute right now because I want you all to know how proud I am of this next part. In other states, NAEP coordinators will upload template parent notification letters to mynape.com in English and Spanish and just call it good. I did this. What I also did, I found out a way to save editable, customized parent notification letters for 172 different schools. These letters have the school name, date of assessment, principal name, and contact information, and I did it in English and Spanish. All the school has to do is put the letterhead on it and the date they send it out. I also created a procedure manual for other NAEP coordinators in other states so that they can catch up to Idaho. But I digress. This email with parent notifications went out on November 30th. I'm happy to send it out again to those who need it. Let me know if you have any questions at any time.
There's no questions, but I want you to know that we do have a very, very big thank you from Andrea Fuentes.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. So I'm going to throw it back over to Paul for our ELPA update.
Good morning. This is not Andrew Bennett. This is Paul Kleinert again. I will be highlighting some important information and reminders that are pertinent to the English language proficiency assessment as we approach the end of the year. The Access Pre-ID file was successfully uploaded to the Data Recognition Corporation on November 30, 2021. Within the WIDA Assessment Management System, generic access for ELL's test sessions are scheduled to become available to test coordinators and test administrators on December 28, 2021. Once the generic sessions are populated in the WIDA AMS, coordinators can add additional students to test sessions, print session tickets, and add or modify EL accommodations. District test coordinators can review the names of the ELs included in the state's WIDA pre-ID file upload by logging into the WIDA Assessment Management System. To download the roster, first log into WIDA AMS. Under General Information, select Student Management. Next, select Student Exports and select this year's test from Access for ELLs-EWD004. Last, select Export and download your roster. Mark your calendars. Districts are scheduled to receive their Access for ELLs test materials between January 13th and January 17th of 2022. The packages are considered secure materials and must be signed for at the time of delivery. Once materials are received, it is recommended that district test coordinators take the time to inventory the test materials. This will help to ensure the listed material quantities did in fact arrive and all are accounted for. As a reminder, these materials should be stored in a secure location at all times. This table is a snapshot of the important 2021-2022 access dates. If you have any questions about these dates, please do not hesitate to reach out to Andrew Bennett. Upcoming ELPA training webinar topics and links are posted on the ELPA webpage under the Trainings tab. Recorded webinars from WIDA's webinar series can be accessed through the WIDA Secure Portal under the Webinars heading. A copy of the Idaho SCE monthly webinar slide decks are accessible via the ELPA website under the Trainings tab. If you have any questions, I know that Andrew is checking email today. Otherwise, please let us know.
And I'm seeing no questions for this section or the previous section.
Okay, so I'll throw it over to myself for some ISAT updates. To start, I want to talk one more time about the new resources created by the Idaho SCE, the ELA Literacy and Math Target Reports. Input the proficient and weaker strong symbols from the summative ISATs into the ELA and Mathematics Target Reports for your district, school, or roster. The target report then automatically summarizes that data so that educators can quickly identify which targets students were performing well on and which targets students need more work on. A user guide for the target reports is also posted on the Idaho portal under resources. Links to all these resources are embedded in the slide. Looking forward to summative testing, the Idaho SDE has elected to go with the adjusted blueprints for Spring 22 summative testing in ELA and Math. Spring 22 summative adjusted blueprints for ELA and Math are available on the Idaho portal. Just like the Spring 21 blueprints, the Spring 22 adjusted blueprints will yield a claim level data at the aggregate or roster, but not at the individual student level. Speaking of blueprints, the Science Operational Field Test blueprints for elementary, middle school, and high school are also available on the Idaho portal. They show the number of clusters and standalones that will be administered per content area, as well as the potential number of field test clusters and standalones that will be administered. Additionally, the Idaho SDE has decided to allow remote administration of the summatives in spring 22. With that said, let me reiterate, there will be no changes implemented to TIDE or to the TA app for administration of the interim. Students will still be able to take an interim with the conventional browser via the remote interim testing site currently on the Idaho portal. Just like Spring 21 summative testing, the Idaho SDE's expectation is that all summative testing will occur in person. Let me repeat that. The Idaho SDE's expectation is that all summative testing will occur in person. However, if remote administration is right for certain students, here are a few specifics to keep in mind when you're planning for summative testing. First, there will be no application process for remote summative testing this school year. However, be aware that the Idaho SDE will be monitoring settings in TIDE and reaching out if necessary. Then, just like last year, the remote TA certification course is required for all TAs that will be administering a summative test to remote students. Additionally, the parental consent for AV monitoring consent form and TIDE attribute will both be required for students that will be taking the summative test remotely. In order to take a summative test remotely, the student will have to use the secure browser in order to access the ELA, math, or science summative test. The reason for this change is that there will be no separate remote fixed form in spring 22. Then, for our summative testing window, we are expecting that the in-person and the remote summative testing windows will be the same, March 14 to May 13, 2022. In addition to the remote TA certification course, resources to assist with remote summative testing are already being posted on the Idaho portal. Simply access the resources page and type remote into the search box to access those resources. Any ISAC questions?
We've got two questions over here, question boxes, and the first one is, we're having all of our grades 3 to 8 take the interim assessment at the same time. Which platform should we have the students log into, and should we start the assessment from test administration platform?
Definitely. So for those students, they can either take the assessment through the secure browser or with the remote interim testing site. If you're doing the testing in person, we strongly recommend that you use the secure browser. In order to start the test sessions, yes, the TA will have to log into the test administration app and start that test session.
Will there be state-provided consent forms for remote testing? Last year, we personalized the template the state supplied. Will this be okay to use again?
Correct. Yes. So the state will be providing the template for the parental consent form. Districts and schools will modify that appropriately, send that off to the parents to sign and return.
We have some questions over in the chat bar too. Will these tools be posted on the SDE webpage? I noticed claim 4 for ELA does not have one of the charts like the other claims. Will this be updated?
That's an interesting question. So I think it's referring to the ELA target reports. And for the target report, that's correct. One of the claims only has one target in it, and that is why it doesn't have a summary graph underneath it.
So it sounds like, will we have an adjusted shortened ISAT again this year?
That is correct. Yes, for spring 22, we will be using the adjusted shortened blueprint for ELA and math.
How do we know if items were not tested versus student performance was not sufficient for a score?
Not sure how to answer that. Please rephrase and put it back into the Q&A box.
Will there be state-provided consent forms for remote testing? Last year, if students took one part of an ISAT in person, they couldn't finish it remotely and vice versa. Will that still be the case?
That is still the case, yes.
Will teachers be allowed to proctor this year?
That is an excellent question. So the Idaho SDE is going to allow teachers to proctor the summative to their own students.
So far, that's all the questions.
Pause a little bit more there. All right, so I'm going to throw it over to Maureen for our IRI update.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen, and like Chandler said, I'm going to give you some updates for the IRI. Over the next coming months, iStation will be introducing a brand new educator experience designed to make your life easier and get you to the most relevant content faster. This multi-phase project will launch this month with a new login experience, followed by a new homepage in spring 2022. You can learn more on the Educator Experience iStation Reimagined page in the iStation User Guide. So what does this mean for educators? iStation is taking a phased approach, so they will only be changing certain sections with each release. At first, the only noticeable difference will be the new login page. Then later, they will replace the home page, but all of the links, classroom page, reports, etc., will remain the same. They will keep you informed every step of the way, so you know exactly what to expect. Educators can get involved. iStation has been collaborating closely with educators from the beginning, sharing their designs and getting feedback throughout the process. If you'd like more information on how to sign up to give feedback, email me at mfryren@sce.idaho.gov. iStation is updating their ISIP reading assessment for the summer of 2022. A new vertical scale will span all grades from pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. This will help schools, teachers, and parents track student performance from year to year. iStation will provide a guide between the new scale and the old scale. iStation is updating Lexile measures. Updated Lexile measures will link to the overall score. Lexiles will be available starting in pre-kindergarten in order to better assess how pre-readers are progressing in reading using the Lexile scale. iStation is also looking at updating growth norms. Growth norms will take into account what is normal or expected growth by grade. iStation is currently conducting customer research regarding reports and which types of norms are most beneficial. New norms will be available in August 2022 in time for the 2022-2023 school year. iStation has several research studies currently underway to make sure the new norms are valid and reliable. To collect the information, they need to construct valid norms based on a representative sample of students, and the following changes are being implemented. In December 2021, all first grade students will complete the phonemic awareness subtest monthly through June. In January 2022, all kindergarten students will complete the phonemic awareness and alphabetic decoding subtests monthly through June. The standard scoring criteria will remain in place, and these subtests will not count toward the overall score unless the student's performance meets the scoring criteria. iStation will conduct a study with Metametrics to update their Lexile measure. Students in pre-kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 8th grades will receive an extra subtest at the end of their ISIP reading assessment. This subtest, designed by Metametrics, will be used to recalculate the Lexile scores students receive based on their overall performance on the ISIP. The assessment will take approximately 5 to 10 minutes to complete, and it will only appear during the month of February. The ISIP score will not be affected by this additional subtest. And now I will pause for any questions about the IRI.
Well, we don't have questions about the IRI yet, but going back to Chandler. On the target report, there are asterisks indicating insufficient data. Is the asterisk indicative of the questions not asked on the test, or student performance poor and not scored?
For the asterisk, that just means there wasn't enough information to be able to report out a measure for that particular metric.
Teachers can only proctor their own students if the students are participating remotely, correct?
This is for in-person and remote.
And follow up to the ELA target report for Claim 4. Claim 4, Research and Inquiry, does not include the chart that shows the level of performance for the cohorts, i.e. highest priority, high priority, meeting expectations, exceeding expectations. Will this chart be added to the ELA target report?
So excellent question. We'll go back and reevaluate that target report and update it if needed.
And that's all we have for questions right now.
Okay, I'll throw it over to Ayaka for some updates for our college entrance exams.
Hello, everyone. Again, I thought about going into the details here of what the board approved on the November 29th board meeting regarding CE requirements, but Because the pending rules are not yet effective, I took them out of the slide. If you're interested, please follow the link posted on this slide. December college entrance exam newsletter was released on the 1st. Here are some of the key points that were included in this month's edition. First is invoicing and grade level verification is due on the 10th. As you know, the state only covers the PSAT and MSQT administration costs of the 10th grade students who have an EDU-ID. Schools are required to cover what is not paid by the state. Schools are currently going through the invoicing and grade level verification process, which allows schools to identify the correct grade level in a test ordering system. The result of this activity directly affects the dollar amount on the invoice that you receive from the College Board. Please make sure your school is participating in verifying the data. January 4th through 18th, book register your students for the April SAT school day. As I indicated in the previous slide, CEE, well, I didn't really, because I took out the portion, but CEE is still required for the class of 2022 and beyond, as we await for the legislature to approve the board's pending rule. In order to take advantage of the state-sponsored April SAT school day, the school or district must register the students via bulk registration process starting on January 4th. Unlike the full PSAT and MSQT process, bulk registration for the spring SAT subsequently places an order for testing materials. What this means is that if a school or district does not submit the bulk registration, the school will not receive the testing materials. Please make sure you guys decide who is submitting the bulk reg file and concurs it in a timely manner. Accommodations request for the April SAT school day is due on February 22nd. We have had some instances that students could not participate in a school day because the request was not submitted in a timely manner. Unlike ISA, College Board actually needs to review your request for approval. I personally cannot expedite the process or review the request for you. Please make sure your SSD coordinator submits the accommodations request in a timely manner. Do you have any questions for college entrance exams?
No questions yet for college entrance exams, but when will we receive paper score reports? I want to schedule classroom visits to do the results interpretation.
That's an excellent question. I'll have to follow up in our Q&A that we publish later on.
Is the date for bulk registration January 18 or 19? I have a note from College Board. It is Wednesday, January 19th.
Let me check on that and follow up with you.
That's all we've got for now.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. While we're waiting for any last-minute questions, let me go ahead and let you know two things. One is that our next webinar will be 10 a.m. Mountain on Wednesday, January 12, 2022. You can find links to register for this webinar or to review past webinars on the Assessment and Accountability's redesigned homepage under the Connect with Us heading. And two, the Idaho SDE wants to wish you and yours a very happy holiday season and healthy new year. Any final questions before we wrap up?
Can I go back to the bulk registration day? That's January 19th. My slide was wrong. It's not 18th, it's 19th. That was on the newsletter. Thank you for letting us know.
We have one new question. Can you summarize the proposed rule changes? The document is over 200 pages.
Sure. For college entrance exam, their recommendation is to remove college entrance exam graduation requirement moving forward, but they wanted to keep the college entrance exam in the comprehensive assessment plan in grade 11 and grade 12. I don't know what that means to us or what that means to you at this point. We will keep you posted.
That appears to be it for questions.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. We will include the questions and answers with the recording that we post. Watch for the recording, a PDF of the PowerPoint, and the questions and answers later this week. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.